Hi, welcome to the Coaching Game. I'm Laurie Lawson, and tonight my guest is Irene Caniano. Welcome, Irene.
Thank you very much for having me.
I have to tell you that the Coaching Game brought Irene and I together because she's been watching for a long time and actually connecting with some of my guests, which I love, because that's the whole point of this show, is to make good connections. And when I found that out, I said, "Oh, you got to come and be on the show."
And I said yes.
She said, "Okay," and very good. So what Irene is doing, which I think is just amazing, is coaching millennials to success, or she's a success coach for millennials, which I'm sure is a whole different game. So we're going to find out. She's written this fantastic book called Design Your Happiness, and don't get discouraged, it's called the Millennial edition. So we're hoping that means there are more to come for us older people. But so Irene, give us a little bit about your background. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Yes, I was a teacher and I love teaching, so I never figured I'd do anything else. And then my son was diagnosed with ADHD at 19. And that brought me to learn that there were coaches. People with ADHD actually went to coaches to get more productivity tips and to learn how to be more confident and to navigate the difficulties of ADHD. But I wasn't going to become a coach then, but over 10 years of time, the idea became to call me. So I decided I would retire early and become a coach for people with ADHD.
Wow. And I know that that's a really specialized field out there. In fact, I used to know someone who was an ADHD coach, and he wouldn't make appointments. He would just say, "Call me." And I'm going, I'm not sure how he runs his business, but good for him. You know?
Yes.
I was like, no appointments, because we know you're not going to keep them or it's going to make you nervous, so just call me.
But when they come, they're 100% with you. That's what's great.
Yes, that's the beauty part. So, from ADHD to millennials, was that an easy path? Was it
It was where I was trying to pick and choose my clientele. So when I started coaching students, it was really coaching their parents also, because I had people under 18. So then I said, well, I only want to work with college students. So I only worked with college students, and I was not using so much input with the parents. It was sort of confidentiality with the college students. And then I said, but when they're graduating, they could use coaching. So I decided I was going to use from 20s to make 35, maybe those times in people's lives. If they had ADHD, that would be fine, but maybe they didn't even need to be under that niche. Let's just say anybody who needs coaching for productivity or just to navigate their changes in life, that was what I was going to do, those ages.
Okay, so it sounds like you were, and I do some mentor coaching for the school from which I graduated, and I always tell them they're so obsessed, and the school teachers, you've got to know your niche and you've got to know who you're, but I say relax, because your niche is going to call you. You know, I've changed mine a couple of times, and it's going to call you, but until then, do what you think you want to do, and it sounds like you were in a process of kind of weeding out, and it's like, oh, this is feeling, and this is feeling even better, and wait, I have skills that can go here, so eventually you ended up with millennials.
Yeah, and I think I have the perfect niche, because with millennials, they're starting their own life, and they get to choose so much of what they want and what they want to change, so they can really make a lot of choices during this time, but that's overwhelming. Yeah. So I feel I catch them at a point where they really want to make good decisions, but they don't want to go back to their parents to ask for advice, so they want to pick someone, maybe someone else who might be able to help them, and I feel I'm a bridge that can help them move on to their decisions and not have to depend on their parents to always be the sounding board.
That's so interesting, because I think the stereotype of millennials is that they know everything and they don't need help and they're pretty sure about where they're going, and so I'm amazed that you saw a need there where it's like, okay, it's kind of like executive coaching. Everybody was like, I could never do that, and it's like, well, executives are people too, and they probably need coaching more than anybody else because they can't drop the facade. So with millennials, they're supposed to be walking around, very sure and knowing what they want, and yet when they have a decision to make, who are they going to call?
And so many decisions. It's so scary, I think, when you think of it. They're choosing partners, some of them. They're changing job locations, changing work, and then maybe even finishing studies, financial concerns. There's so much going on.
Yes,
the loan.
Yeah.
Yes. Good point.
The loan is the big one,
looming over them every day.
Yeah. So when you decided to, where did this information come from? How to design your happiness?
Oh, yes. I'm sure it was familiar to you because when we went for coach training, these are the ideas that we did go through, and we went through our own life. So I went through with the book the areas we went through as a life coach. So I said, let me just explain to them what I learned late in life as a coach that could help them earlier in life and would have helped me.
Right.
So I just went through let's see, what if I could pick 9 things? What 9 things would I want to focus on? And then I made it an activity book where they could focus on the different parts of their life.
I have to tell you how cool this book is because she's developed or divided it into 9 elements, and each element has some very interesting stories, case stories, so in some cases true. I don't know if you made some up or it sounds like they're all
Mostly
true.
true.
Yeah.
Mostly true.
And then it has activity. It's like, or exercise, or just how you can sort of get the feel of what she was saying and apply it to yourself. And then there's strategies for incorporating this into your own life. I mean, and she ends each chapter with, what's next? So I love it. It sounds like, oh, okay, you're done. You're not done. No, what's next? You know?
Yes.
Keep going, keep
That's
going.
right.
And so I really like the way it's divided and the way it's interactive, so to speak. It's like people can really take to heart what you're saying and then try, and you have some great exercises to apply to their lives. So I think the design is really brilliant, just brilliant.
Thank you. Well, what this book was from my clients, because my clients would explain to me what difficulties they had. So a lot of it might be conflicting values. So I did a chapter on values. Boundaries. I don't know where to tell my parents that's where our boundaries are. My girlfriend, where are the boundaries? So I did a chapter on boundaries.
Does that ever end? I'm
Yeah.
still working on boundaries. It's like,
Yeah.
am I ever going to get this right? I don't think so.
But I actually thank my clients for this because they told me what are some of the concerns that we all have, but really in your 20s, these are real stumbling blocks if you don't get them straight.
Oh,
so
yeah.
This could really free people. And millennials love the word freedom. And if it can free you from anxiety and free you from making a decision that's going to be costly, it's really worth going through this process.
Well, I love what you said. It was like, I thought I would pass it on to early because when I became a life coach, it's like, where were the life coaches when I was making a decision about college? I think I decided I would pursue a sociology field because my girlfriend did. It's like, oh, that sounds good. Okay, that was as much thought as I gave that. Have I used it? I don't know. That's debatable. But and I think it's so thoughtful and needed for to have someone there when they are making the life-turning decisions, you know, and it is, you know, at that age. What resistance do you find resistance when?
I feel they're either in it or they're not. So if you get a client who'll come in one time and then you don't see them again, it wasn't the right time for them. And then those who are vested, oh my gosh, they're very honest and open. And they're willing to do things during the week to help enforce what they worked on during the session. And they'll stay with you for a long time if they feel they need you.
Wow.
So I feel that's it, getting the client who really it's the right time for them and they're motivated to stay in the process.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what, that kind of applies to all coaching clients. They're either in it or they're not, you know, and if they're not ready, that's okay, you know, they'll either be back or they'll find another way to do what they're doing. So, yeah, you can't ram coaching down somebody's throat. They either want it or they don't. Explain to me, you've had so many cool terms in here, explain to me life closet. I just love that. It was like, why didn't I think of that?
Well, I don't know if you have the cluttering thing, it's always cleaning out the life closet, too. So, I just use the analogy, just like you have to clean out your closet, you have to clean out your life closet. So you might have some friends that have gone and they're not there anymore, but you can always buy new clothes, you can always get some new friends. You may have things in your closet that you know need mending, so these might be the habits you need to fix. There are things that are just cluttering your life. Maybe you're doing some things with your time that are just wasting it, and you want to do away with that activity, so you just say that's no longer part of my life. So you look at your life and say what needs to be added, what needs to be taken out, and what needs to be changed. And then you go through your life, and it's very simple because basically it's just thinking things out and then slowly starting to change your life. closet in your life.
Yeah, I'm not sure why someone else didn't think of that. It's such a great idea. It's like, but it makes it a little more simple if you can say, well, equate it to a closet, you know, and use that as the metaphor and say, okay, well, doesn't fit anymore, and the style's gone, so let's go. So I like that whole concept. I don't want you to give away the whole book, but what are there were 4 key elements, and well, you broke it down into
Right.
your responsibilities.
I forget your choices,
your
relationships,
yeah.
and your choices. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the first thing is you. That's 4 chapters where you find about yourself. So you really get clear on your values and how satisfied you are in your life, and then after you finish that section of the book, really understanding yourself, your beliefs, then you go on to your relationships. And one of the things I really wanted to point out to them, it's not only your friends and your family, your coworkers, it's groups.
You call them tribes.
Groups, join
I love
tribes.
that.
Yeah, because I never was a tribe person until I got older, and I realized, oh my gosh, things like Toastmasters, things like joining the Red Cross, or even a fitness group, a running group, you are with people who will help you achieve your goals or some community goals, and you will learn so much being part of a tribe. And it's a sense of belonging, and it's a sense of purpose where you're joining together. So it's not just the people you live with and you work with and you socialize with. There's that whole other set of groups that I encourage them to find a group, and I have a whole list of groups, and I say, I'm sure you'll find something. And for people who are hesitant, I say, well, why don't you just volunteer for like a day? There are ways to volunteer for a day event, and you can help it that way. But you're part of a bigger picture.
Yeah, I do that. It's funny. I do that interestingly with when I'm doing some job coaching and interviewing people. I want to quit my job. It's like, no, go volunteer for a day and see if this is what you really want to do. And I've always wanted to be a veterinarian, and but dogs slobber all over you. I don't know.
Right.
But it's, get in there and get your foot in there at least. And then you can decide, do you want to join? It's not a lifetime commitment. But I love that you call them tribes. It's like, and you can build your own tribe.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was fantastic. What else did I like about the book? Everything I liked about the book. I thought setting boundaries, it was just like, oh my goodness. That's a difficult one. And I wonder why we have such trouble with that.
I think lots of us are pleasers, and this is the millennials. They love to please their parents, and I think that's why they're having so much difficulty. They don't want to go against what the parents have been wanting, but that they have their own desires, and they feel conflicted with that. So I say that's like you have conflicting values. You want to be independent, but you also want to show honor to your parents, but let's reassess this. How can this really work, and what's best to do right now?
Yeah.
So I think that's important for them to know. So.
It's a balance. It is a balance, and sometimes you wonder, okay, is setting the boundary worth the guilt that you're going to feel on the other side when you go, no, I can't do that, you know? And it's a very, I find that's something that I have to coach a lot of people, including myself, coach a lot of people on, you know?
I found the difficult thing is that you really have to have a set of boundaries for each person almost. You're like, you have to keep adjusting the boundaries with which person you're dealing with.
Absolutely, and some accept the boundaries and some don't.
That's
so
right.
It's like, oh my goodness, okay.
Yeah.
Well, what I do is this show is based on Points of View, the coaching game, which is a fantastic coaching tool. And what I do is let my guests choose some cards that are going to advance their message. And Irene chose 2 very colorful cards. I think I don't know what that says about her, but it's that she's very colorful. And one is awareness, and one is choice. And so how does that play with the theme of designing your happiness?
Well, it started with myself. When I finished coaching training, I said, oh my gosh, I feel like a new person. And why was that? It's because I had great self-awareness now.
Yeah.
I understood myself, and I understood why I was doing things that were holding me back, and I was freeing myself from all these things that I didn't realize before with the new awareness. And then that opened a whole load of choices. So that made me think, well, this is so important in someone's life, and then that keyed very much into the book.
Yeah.
Get self-awareness, and then see how much choice you have in life, like changing your environment, changing the people you're with, and changing your perspective. There's so much with choice. So I really thought that was good, and I like the card because it has the watermelon, and you can see the little pits and all, and you start really noticing every little texture in that picture,
Right,
watermelon.
and you can also see the watermelon, the pits under the skin. It's like, oh, okay, so you have to dig deep.
That's right, that's right.
Dig deep if you want to get all the pits.
And I think a lot of times we don't really keep aware. And one of the things I learned from coaching is how many assumptions we make.
Yes.
So that was eye-opening, and fact versus what you think is a fact. So the awareness is so important.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's like, I want to kind of make this clear that because this is the Millennial edition, you were not a millennial when you wrote it. So
Yes, and you know what? I said I'm pretty nervy writing a book for millennials. So two things. Once, I said I taught millennials while they were growing up. So when they were little, I was teaching the millennials, so I did know them, and I did understand them, and I did really care about them. But also, I did ask 2 college interns and my family members to help me. The interns actually read everything and gave constant feedback on it. So I felt this wasn't only my book, it really was vetted by millennials.
Wow.
Yeah, and I used their suggestions, and even the wording, they would sometimes say, no, don't word it that way.
Really?
So they were very helpful.
Wow.
And my family members too. And that was the way I felt. I didn't feel like, okay, a baby boomer's telling millennials what to do.
Which is par for the course. Yeah.
I'm saying I'm sharing some things that I should have known when I was younger, and I think will be helpful to you. And why don't you just see take a look at these ideas?
Right.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that I think it's, although it's the Millennial edition, anybody can start at any time for self-awareness. And I don't think the goal for self-awareness ever ends. I think just when you think you've got it, and I know that was my biggest revelation during coach training. It was like, okay, boy, look at what I've learned. And then you go back and you go, oh, I have so much more to learn.
That's
And
right.
the learning never stops. And then when you coach somebody, you continue to learn because you're coaching them.
That's
so,
right.
so I would say if you're a little over the age of 35, don't hesitate to take a look at this book because it has a lot of good lessons in it.
My friend who read it for me, she said, oh, there was some stuff that I really could use, but I wanted not to turn off the millennials because I wanted them to have stories that were related to their lives and talk in terms of where they are in their life. So I did say that this would be more likely to feed into the life of a millennial, but all the lessons were relevant.
Yeah, and we don't want to make them a subgroup or a very unique, special, exotic group. I mean, it's just I guess their perspectives are different, and that's what makes it so interesting.
Yes.
But so, what do you say is one of the biggest challenges that faces? I'm going to say that faces millennials today, as well as businesses that are trying to incorporate millennials with baby boomers who are just getting ready to step on out and call it a day. What are some of the challenges there?
I think the challenges are the misunderstandings that come, because the word entitled is judgmental, and they say the millennials are entitled. No, the millennials want to have choice, and given choice, they will use their values and their strengths, and everything will be much better for the company. So I think we just have to get away from those negative, judgmental things. They're lazy. They're not lazy. They're highly motivated. Then they're working. If they're bored, they're not into it. And it's because they were brought up that way. We as parents kept them very stimulated. We kept them very social.
Yes.
So they need a social environment. We taught them to be with people, to be team players.
Which is very good, yeah.
So also that they should have purpose in their life. So if they're not doing something that's meaningful, or they're not working for a company that's giving back, they don't really feel that that's the company for them. So it's a lot of making the company seem, well, actually to be a company where you're actually having a purpose besides making money, because money won't do it and titles won't do it.
That's so.
Not with millennials.
That's so, and I think that started coming across about 25 years ago when it was the polls said that people didn't leave for more money. They left because they weren't getting enough recognition. They weren't being appreciated. All of the self-gratifying things that that even baby boomers, were feeling. The money is, and that's how I got into coaching. It's like I climbed that corporate ladder like I was supposed to, and I got to the top, and I went, oh, this is doing nothing for me. Right. I wanna do something meaningful. What's a lesson that millennials need to learn in order to incorporate themselves into?
Yeah, I think because they grew up the digital natives, they have to understand there's a lot of other ways that we learn. And they're even saying the Gen X, the group right before them, can be their mentors to what life was like before you had an iPhone in your hand.
Yeah.
That they need the generation before them, because they're going to be a connection to what was and what all the good things were from that time, because we just can't think everything's solved by technology.
What do you feel, and this is just a philosophical question, but what do you feel the future of communication is? Because I'm amazed at how people can't talk back and forth. It's just, without that thing in their hand.
Well, I think they're at the point where they really rely on technology a lot for information. So they are hooked to their phones, but it's like they're wanting to know how to get from here to there. They're wanting to know a rating on a restaurant, and then they're also using it socially. But I do think they still value social in person very much. So I don't think it's going to die. I think it's going to actually start going back to more social in person. I really actually think
it'll play itself out a bit.
Yes, I think it will.
Because it's lonely. When you're in your phone, I go to plays and intermission. Everybody's in there. I think it's a play.
Yes.
Look at the set. Talk about what happened in the first act. Come on. You can live without that phone, but it's become an appendage. So it's a challenge. It's certainly a challenge. I'm glad you're out there doing what you're doing.
I'm liking it. I'm feeling very encouraged by millennials. Yeah, I think they are innovative, and they're optimistic, and they respect their families very much.
I'm so used. That's the second time you've said that, and it's like I'm so glad to hear that.
And by I say that because that means they respect elders.
Yeah.
And they want feedback from people at work. They just want it gently. They don't want to be told in a strict evaluation way. They like gentle, small size feedback, like their parents used to give.
Yeah.
So if we know how they are receptive of getting feedback, and we really can get along very well with millennials. We just have to understand they're in a different perspective. And I'm very, very hopeful that things are going to be really good, because when things go into their hands, I really trust them. I do.
That's so encouraging. Because you're right. Our impression is entitled, and they don't want to listen. And I'm thrilled to hear you say about the respect for the parents and the elders and all of that. What are some of the lessons that you keep learning by doing this?
Yes, that's good. I think it's that everybody I've coached has good intentions, but there's so much overwhelm. People are overwhelmed. And even when they're like taking care of sick relatives, because I had a young person taking care of a sick relative, and I also had a client who was a little older, they don't feel they're doing enough. So it's like they're struggling with themselves, like not thinking that they're good enough.
Yeah, I can see that, because we are all bombarded with information, and there's so much to do, and it's like, and there's books, and there's this, and the books are obsolete. There's Kindles, things that you have to keep checking to stay on top of everything, and it is overwhelming. What do you recommend for that? Deep breaths.
I love that you say that, because I'm still learning that. Deep breaths is the way. I think also accepting that you don't have to be perfect now. You don't even have to get everything done now. You do what you can, and you say, I think acknowledge yourself more. I'm trying to say more self-acknowledgement. What did I accomplish today at the end of the day, and feel good about yourself. And then, okay, tomorrow you have a lot of things to do, but feel good about what you accomplished today.
That gratitude journal. It's just not even that. It could just be an awareness journal. It's like, you know what I got done today? This is amazing, And the to-do list, which is highly overrated, but just appreciate it's a good reminder for everybody. You've got a 3R kit in your book. What is it? What are the 3 R's?
Well, it's really relax, recreation, and what was the other one? I'm figuring now.
Re-energize.
Re-energize, right. I haven't read my book in a while. But but what I'm basically saying is, when you step off from work and responsibilities, you will have a chance to become almost a new you. You need to step aside, like the presidents have to step aside. High executives, they're going to the gym and they're relaxing other times. They're going on their vacations. But we have to take little breaks during the day also to like have a little walk around, or look out the window at nature, something to make you have a break. The playlist that they have, the young people, the music they're constantly playing, I think that's their break. Sometimes to get the stress out,
Okay.
And maybe walking, the video games can be, but it can be many more ways of connection with nature, walk, collections. People like to collect things.
Yeah.
So anything that can make you get a break and have just a little bit of joy in life. So I have a long list of ways that you can use music, art, friends, just quiet times, your environment.
She tells you how to do free things in New York City.
Free things in New York City. Yeah.
Really interesting. That's interesting because the mark used to be when a good worker would sit at their desk and eat lunch and work right on through. And then they realized, you know what? That's not good. Because you need that break. You need to get up and physically move your body and do what you have to do. So that's your 3R kit.
Yeah, it's basically you can do it to relax or to recreate yourself or to re-energize, because sometimes we're just sapped out of energy from all the worry or stress, and you have to replace that energy with something fun.
Yeah.
So that's the whole thing, that it'll help you no matter what your reason. We do need to have rest and recreation.
Yeah, and so you have to sort of refill the glass,
That's right.
because people are drinking from it and you're offering. So it's like, so we've got like 2 minutes. What would you say that, what would be a general, besides the recreation, and what would be a general guideline for people to create their own happiness? I mean, I like the 3 R's. It's like do that, but what do you think is the most important thing?
The most important thing is to really know yourself and be able to be yourself. And that means that you'll be able to self-advocate, you'll be able to do what you want to do and you think is important. You won't live a life for somebody else. And also to use a positive perspective, so that you can go through life seeing the beautiful things and enjoying things and appreciating people. So I think that's how you really are happy, by knowing yourself and by, like you said before, gratitude.
So you're advocating awareness for, first of all.
Yes.
Just really know yourself, and then when you do that, then you can establish your relationships and move on from there. I just like the idea of creating your own tribe. I mean, you are born into a family, and you can choose your own friends, of course, but sometimes your friends become your family, and in the sense of, these are the people you depend on, and, the families are 400 miles away or something, so you create your own family and your own tribe.
Yes.
So I really like that. I like the interconnectedness of it, because you're not saying, a lot of self-help books are like, it's all about you and you've got to get this, and but you're saying, okay, now that you know all about you, let's take it on to the next thing, and then let's move it on to even a bigger scope. So that's good. So what's in the future for you? I mean, I know you're doing one-on-one to lucky millennials who are smart enough to seek you out.
Well, 2 things. I have a second book that I had ready to go, and I want to fix that. But that's like how to take charge of your life. It's a lot of the strategies we learned in coaching when stress is on and when you're having difficulties making decisions, and how do you do that goal setting. So that's take charge of your life. That's something I'm working on. And then I want to do some group coaching, maybe with a little bit of a program behind it, and have a sense of community. I also do workshops. So just spreading the word of coaching any way I can.
Me too.
Yeah,
That's my goal. Okay, check out her website on the bottom, and I bet you'll find out all the stuff she's doing. And the book you can find on Amazon, and I'm sure the website will lead you there also. Irene Caniano, I'm so grateful that you watched the show and that we got to connect, and I can find out all the cool things you're doing. Thank you for being on the Coaching Game.
Well, thank you very much, Laurie. It's been a pleasure.
It has been
Appreciate
great.
it.
Thank you.